Hello and welcome to the Daily Aus. I'm Emma.
I'm Zara.
A Queensland social media influencer accused of poisoning her young daughter has been released on bail after she was arrested on several charges, including torture. It's also alleged the woman filmed and posted videos of the child under distress to, quote, entice monetary donations and online followers. The woman has spent the past 2 weeks in protective custody, but has now been released as she awaits further proceedings. Today we'll talk through what we know about this case and the investigation into the possible role of social media as a tool to exploit and extort.
So, Em, this is one of those stories that I actually saw online before I saw it in the news headlines. It's felt like people across social media were talking about this and then the news kind of picked it up. We are talking about a Queensland mother who is accused of harming her child, but also using social media, hence why there's been so much interest, to deceive her followers. It is quite a distressing and quite an unusual story. So can you just tell me a bit about what we know about the woman at the centre of this case?
Yep. So she has been kept anonymous, but the allegations against her, what she's been charged with, those details have been made public by Queensland Police. So what we do know is that she's a 34-year-old Sunshine Coast mother. She was arrested on several charges earlier this month, including torture, and it's alleged that she administered unauthorised prescription and pharmacy medicines to her toddler over the course of several months last year. Now, police are also investigating claims that the woman filmed and posted videos of the child under distress to entice monetary donations and to deceive her online followers. Police have described the child as being a 1-year-old girl when the alleged crimes occurred. So we're now talking about a toddler who's about 18 months old.
So some very serious allegations that you've just rattled off there. Where did this investigation begin, though?
So it was actually hospital staff who reached out to police directly.
Wow.
So that's where the investigation came from in the first place. Healthcare providers were treating this young girl in a Brisbane hospital in October, and there was some alarm bells raised in the hospital. Police were contacted and they actually attended the hospital following that call out. So according to Queensland Police, the toddler reportedly appeared gravely ill and had a serious medical condition. They then immediately took action to ensure the safety of the child, is how they described it, and commenced an investigation. Now, after a few months of investigating, that led to 11 charges being laid against the 34-year-old mother this month.
So that investigation you just said culminated in 11 separate charges. So what are those charges? Can you just run through them and explain what they mean?
Yeah, so she was charged with 5 counts of administering poison with intent to harm. So prosecutors allege that there are 5 instances that they can prove that the mother administered medication to the daughter to harm her. 3 counts of preparation to commit crimes with dangerous things. So that relates to an alleged premeditation with these crimes. 1 count of torture, a count of making child exploitation material, and 1 charge of fraud. Now, in terms of what that means and what it tells us about this case, police say they will allege that between the 6th of August last year and the 15th of October, the woman administered several prescription and pharmacy medications, so over-the-counter and prescription meds, to a 1-year-old girl without medical approval. Queensland Police will also argue that this mother went to lengths to conceal her continued efforts to administer the unauthorised medication until the offence was detected by medical staff and police.
Wow. Okay. And you said there's something I'm interested in about the child exploitation charges. And that goes to, I guess, the heart of why so many people are paying attention to this story, which is the social media element.
Yeah.
Talk me through that.
So basically, the woman is accused of filming videos and posting them to social media, showing what investigators have described as a child experiencing, quote, severe emotional and physical distress and harm. To basically break down the allegations, what they mean in terms that, we would discuss, the accusation is that this mother filmed her daughter, posted it online to elicit sympathy, a following, allegedly, and to encourage people to donate to a fundraising website to raise money for the treatment of this child's alleged medical condition. The woman is accused of raising at least $60,000 through the public fundraising platform GoFundMe. Police say they're now working to return the money to those who donated through the kindness of their hearts, to use the words of police. But that is a significant amount of money.
Yeah. So you led with the fact that the woman is currently on trial, and we'll get to that in a moment. But I am interested in whether or not police have commented on the welfare of the child who is at the centre of this case.
Yeah. Hi there, my name's Emma. I'm the editor at the Daily Aus, just popping in to say hi and let you know that here at the Daily Aus, we are an independent media company who work to break down the news for young Aussies in a digestible and accessible way. If you like what you're watching and you like what we do, please hit the subscribe button. Now back to the video. Yes, so obviously this is a matter before the courts. Police have been quite guarded with revealing certain details. It's obviously a sensitive topic, and we're also talking about a very young child. But
I'm just going to jump in here. We're not naming the woman because her name has not been made public by police either. And so we're following their lead on that, and that's because of Queensland laws that we can get into another time. But this is, as you've just mentioned, such a sensitive case. So many things are being withheld at this time.
Yeah, exactly. But what we do know is that the child was placed into what investigators called a safe position immediately after those initial inquiries were made at the hospital. Police said they're satisfied the child is safe at present. They also said that that certainty or satisfaction with safety extended to siblings. We don't know much more there, but there could be other children involved. Police have said that, quote, all they can say is the kids are safe.
Okay, so that brings us to this week where the woman's appeared in court and she's been granted bail. What's the latest?
Yep. So the accused appeared via video link in court. There were 2 days of proceedings this week in the Brisbane Magistrates Court to review that bail application. So prosecutors argued against her release from custody. They claimed the woman could pose a risk to her daughter if she's granted bail, that she could either harm her child or attempt to interfere with witnesses if released. And during these proceedings, we've learnt a little bit more about the investigation or the case that police are mounting against her. Prosecutors claim the child has a non-fatal condition called tuberous sclerosis complex. Now, that is a genetic condition that causes benign tumours to grow on the body's organs. Now, when we say benign tumours, we mean non-cancerous tumours as opposed to malignant tumours. But prosecutors accuse the woman of refusing to accept that the condition her child has is manageable.
Wow.
They say that instead she has ignored medical advice around how best to treat the child and gone about administering drugs that were not appropriate for her daughter. Prosecutors also told the magistrate this week that the woman's actions have caused the child to have a heart attack. They also claimed the girl underwent unnecessary brain surgery to remove the tumours at the request of the mother.
Some very, very serious claims being put forward there. But the woman was granted bail, so presumably there were arguments against that in order for her to successfully apply for bail. What were those arguments?
Yeah, so her lawyer argued that the client was a young woman with no criminal history. This solicitor, Matthew Cuskelly, suggested the case against the woman is weak, that it's all based on very circumstantial evidence and allegations. And he was pushing for her bail under several conditions. So he had suggested that the woman report to police regularly, wear an ankle bracelet, have no contact with the children except for through supervised video calls. The woman's legal team also, though, was quite critical of the way the investigation has been handled and this subsequent kind of media interest. They proposed a list of several different residential locations. They suggested that, the woman should be granted bail and that she have a list of locations that she can be moved between for her own protection. Then yesterday, Zara, as you mentioned, we got a decision on this bail application. Deputy Chief Magistrate Stephen Courtney described it as a difficult decision to wrestle with, but that ultimately he would approve the bail application. So there are several conditions attached to this bail being granted. That includes the woman must not go within 100 metres of her child. She's to have no contact unless through supervised means led by the Department of Child Safety. And that speaks to, what the defence lawyers were sort of putting on the table anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so for now, this woman is free with, as you said, some conditions, but she's not been remanded in custody. What happens from here?
So the case has been adjourned until next month. So the matter is next before the courts on the 19th of February. That's when there will be something called a committal mention. That's a preliminary mention of the case where we might get some more evidence put forward from investigators, and ultimately it's at that point that a magistrate will determine if there is a sufficient case, if there is sufficient evidence for this matter to proceed to a criminal trial in a higher court. So we'll kind of await that ruling, that decision, and from there, we may expect to see a very high profile, very lengthy trial to follow.
I mean, I just find this so fascinating because it shows how social media can be the next frontier of how, I guess, our judicial system operates and is applied here in Australia. The alleged crimes were documented online and on social media, and what role that will play down the road will certainly be one to watch. And thank you so much for explaining that. And thank you for joining us for another episode of The Daily Aus. We'll be back later this afternoon with the day's headlines, but until then, have a great day.